Well, thank you, Randy. Hello, everybody. So I've done a couple of years worth of these monthly webinars through Alignable, and in pretty much every single one, I talk about these two subjects, segmentation and personalization. In one way or the other, I touch on these two North Stars of successful email marketing, digital marketing over and over again. I'm particularly passionate about these two things because I'm passionate about small businesses and nonprofits being successful. I'm often asked, what is the secret sauce to being successful at email marketing? You're looking at it, segmentation and personalization. Why? Because of relevancy. The more relevant you can make your email marketing and, quite frankly, digital marketing content, the more successful you'll be. When I started my career at Constant Contact 14 years ago, many small businesses and nonprofits would just send one email out to everyone and hope for the best. That was called an email blast. Now, there's nothing wrong with that terminology. You want to call your email an email blast, call it an email blast. But the concept is what is no longer applicable. Sending one email to your entire audience and hoping for the best is not necessarily the best way to be successful. Would you get more phone calls by doing that? Sure. Will you get more business? Sure. More volunteers, more donors, sure. But you can get even more if you think through the strategy of segmentation and personalization. Segmented emails deliver a transaction rate 6 times higher than those that are not personalized. Why? Because of relevancy. When the content is relevant, people are more likely to pay attention to the content. Through proper segmenting, marketers can drive 3 times the revenue of their emails. And when emails are not personalized, 52% of subscribers say they will find somewhere else to go. You may question some of this, but I guarantee that you are exactly like the people that are mentioned on this slide. I'd be willing to bet in your inbox right now are emails from organizations that you have bought from, that you have supported, events that you have attended, that you just don't pay attention to anymore. Why? Because they taught you that the content was irrelevant. At some point, they gave you content that wasn't useful to you at that point, and over time, that email just started to become white noise in your inbox. You started to ignore it. Well, that's what happens when we don't deliver segmented, personalized, relevant content, is that soon people just start to tune us out. So let's talk about what we're going to cover today. I give you some effective segmentation techniques, how to create personalized, impactful emails to drive better engagement, and how to leverage analytics to experiment and refine your tactics. Now, back to Randy's point. This first bullet is going to be fairly product agnostic. It's going to be universal. Best practices are best practices no matter what you use. I am a longtime Constant Contact employee, so in bullet number 2, I'm going to give some Constant Contact examples, but I'd encourage you to do one of 2 things. One, explore the tool you're using. See if it has similar functionality. If it doesn't, come on over to Constant Contact. We do. Or just come on over to Constant Contact. We're more fun anyway. And lastly, how to leverage those analytics. That's going to be fairly universal. And this is when my cat has decided to act up. So one moment. Sorry about that. Those of you that have attended webinars with me through Alignable know that I have an elderly cat. She's 18 years old, and she always decides to start screaming. She's also deaf. She always decides to start screaming right when I'm on a webinar, so I'm sorry about that. So let's go ahead and get into effective segmentation techniques. So what is segmentation? Segmentation is simply taking a large list and breaking it up into smaller groups of like-minded people, people that live in the same location. You can break up a list by a wide range of different criteria, and we'll talk about that criteria in a moment. But the benefits is it allows you to send more refined, relevant content. The benefits is you're going to see better engagement because that content is speaking to the audience more directly. Instead of giving them a one-size-fits-all, it's speaking to their particular zip code, to their particular buying habits, to their donation habits. It's speaking more specifically to them, and so you're going to see better engagement from them because it's meant for them. Because of that, you're going to see improved opens and clicks, better conversions, meaning more people buying, more people attending, more people donating. You're going to see increase in revenue, decreased unsubscribes, and better customer retention overall. So finding the best segmentation strategy for your organization, it all depends on your organization. So I guarantee you when we get into the Q&A, I'm going to get asked very specific questions about your particular industry. That's okay. It's just know that the goal of your segmentation is going to differ by every single one listening to my voice right now. it's going to depend on what kind of organization you are, meaning that are you geographic based? Do you have multiple locations? What kind of products do you offer? If you're a nonprofit, what is your value? What do you do for the community? So you want to determine your end goal. What am I trying to get people to do? And is this worth me segmenting a group out to get them to do it? You also want to use segmentation and personalization hand in hand to make your content more personalized, not just giving people relevant content, but literally speaking to them through personalization. Whatever you do, don't go overboard. You can probably segment too much. And the reality is segmentation, the idea of this, when I teach this in front of live audiences and I can see their face, people start to get this concerned look on their face. Like, it's going to take a lot of work. Firstly, yeah, it might take a lot of work on the upfront, the strategy part. Like, what's the best way for me to look at my large list and breaking it up into smaller lists? But do you have to have 1,000 smaller refined lists and send 1,000 emails? That's probably going overboard. And be willing to bet that all of you watching, you have some general segments, right? Now, the most base form of segmentation is on and off. Customer, non-customer, member, non-member, donor, non-donor, right? The on-off. That's the most basic form of segmentation. And I encourage you to all think through that very base level of segmentation. You may not want to speak to customers the way that you would to non-customers and vice versa. And you need to also understand the customer supporter life cycle, meaning what do typically people do next? And you want to support that with your segmentation. So some strategies, again, this is generalized. It's going to be based on the kind of organization you are. Some of these might apply. Others of you, they wouldn't apply. But generally, common segmentations would be around geographic, city, state, their zip code, their country, their county, demographics, what's their income level, their age range, gender, marital status, occupation, or behaviors. Have they opened? Have they clicked? Have they engaged? Have they purchased? What kind of behavior have they had with you in the past? Not all of you are going to care about things like age range, right? But for some organizations, that might be a core segmentation. What you want to do is understand your business and understand your customers and go, okay, the content I'm sending out, how can I make this most relevant as possible to these prime groups of people? Those are your segments. So a couple of ideas for my nonprofit friends. I already mentioned donor v non-donor, member v non-member. You can also segment based on contribution level, or if you're speaking specifically to volunteers. One thing I see nonprofits do often is that they lump volunteer communication in with general communication. This is a unique, more dedicated group of people. You may want to carve them out their own segment and speaks directly to them. And certainly something like board members. For B2B, what is your product? What is your service? Not everybody's going to take advantage of every service that you might offer. And the more you can keep your content relevant to a particular service that might be applicable to a particular type of customer, the more or the higher results you're going to see. Perhaps the company size is going to be relevant. What kind of company size does your subscribers belong to? What is their industry? What is their budget range? Are they prospects? Are they not engaged with you? For retail, what kind of products have they purchased? Are they very engaged? Are they buying regularly? Have they abandoned carts quite a bit? What's some of their recent purchases? That'll give you some indication on how you might want to segment those people for follow-up. Now, if you do use e-commerce, e-commerce tools have some base segmentation that can help you because you will have purchase data in those tools. You'll know who bought. Ideally, you'll know who abandoned carts. You'll know how often people frequent. That's one of the powerful features within e-commerce tools like Shopify, BigCommerce, WooCommerce. They give you that kind of reporting. Those kind of tools do integrate with tools like Constant Contact, so you can actually take those segments, drop them into Constant Contact, and they're already built in. You can actually target people by how much they spent, how much they didn't spend very easily in a tool like Constant Contact. And this kind of falls back into the idea of CRM, which are customer relationship managers, because if you're using some third-party tool, and I just gave you the example of e-commerce tools, but if you're using some tool to manage your contacts besides a tool like Constant Contact, then I'd encourage you to visit the integration tab if you're a Constant Contact customer. Visit the integrations tab. It's under tools within Constant Contact because we have over 7,000 integrations into Constant Contact, and a majority of those are CRMs. And so a CRM is going to be a tool where you put in notes and phone numbers and sales records, and you tie it to a sales rep. It's going to be where you do a lot of your business record keeping. When you integrate those kind of databases into Constant Contact, well, those kind of databases already have some of that base segmentation for you, meaning customer v non-customer, zip code, city, state, potentially other data that you've collected like gender, marital status, right? Because you can integrate that into Constant Contact, every single time you're updating records in one of those tools, it can be added to a tool like Constant Contact. But let's say you don't use a CRM, or let's say you're just getting started, or let's say that you maybe don't even use Constant Contact. Where do you even begin, right? It begins by where you collect data. Now, one thing you'll want to do is think through your strategy on how and where you're collecting data. So you might be collecting data on the phone, like taking a phone call, giving rate quotes, getting information like that. Well, make sure you're recording that data somewhere. Also, make sure you're leveraging digital tools to help you. So what you see here is an example of a sign-up form. This is something that's available for no extra charge within Constant Contact. This is a customizable form where you can ask any question you want of your subscriber. Now, those questions might be very common and routine, like first name, email address, but you can also ask specific questions about your business, about your customer persona. Ask those questions to find out more so that you can deliver more relevant content to them. So with this customizable form, you want to ask those questions that will allow you to segment in the future, that will allow you to personalize in the future. Just make sure you're not overwhelming people. You don't want to ask them too many questions because then they'll just abandon the form. Generally, no more than about 10 questions per form. Something else you can do, and this is not product centric to Constant Contact, most tools will do this, is that you have the ability to ask people to update their profile. So within Constant Contact, that can be found down in the footer of your emails. It's a little link that says update profile. I'd encourage you, if you're not using Constant Contact, to look for a similar feature in the tool you use. Regularly encourage your audience to update their profile. When they do that, they're going to be able to add additional information about themselves that you didn't collect at the beginning. This is going to allow you to do that further customization of segmentation, leveraging segmentation and personalization so that you can send those more refined marketing emails. Now, for those of you that use Constant Contact, I cannot encourage you enough, and I'm going to show this to you in my product demonstration. Cannot encourage you enough to make sure you're leveraging a feature called click segmentation. Click segmentation is a tool that allows your audience to be segmented automatically. So let's imagine you have an email with 3 different products in it. Well, when somebody clicks that link to the second product, learn more about that product, that service, that opportunity, Constant Contact will segment that person into a list about product number 2, service number 2, feature number 2. That gives you the ability to send a future email about that second product, about that second service, about that second opportunity, right? Giving you the ability to segment your audience automatically. Again, to Randy and my point at the beginning, if you're not using Constant Contact, I encourage you to see if your tool that you use offers something like click segmentation. Lastly, survey your audiences. Ask them questions through a good old-fashioned survey. Collect that data. You can submit that survey out online through social media, through email, through blogs, tools like that, and encourage your audience to inform you a little bit more about what their lives look like. You then collect that data and you start to segment your audiences. Now, sound a bit like a broken record, but Constant Contact has a no extra cost survey tool built right into us as a way for you to learn more about your audience for segmentation, but also just learn more about your audience, period. Now let's pivot a little bit to the other side of this coin. So I've talked a lot about segmentation, taking that big list, breaking it up into smaller, refined lists. But the other side of this coin is personalization. Now, personalization is very, very aligned with segmentation. The idea of sending people more relevant content. But this kind of relevancy is literally making the email truly about them by giving information, showing information specific to that person. So you can personalize your Constant Contact emails. Again, if you're not using Constant Contact, take a look and see if you have this functionality in the tool you use with any data you've collected. Meaning that if I send an email to Randy, I can have Randy's name appear in the email. I can have information saying that I know Randy works at Alignable, so stuff like that. That I know what state she lives in. Now, I wouldn't say that outright, but I would include that in my marketing copy to be relevant to her. You can personalize your email content nearly infinitely. You can actually change the words to be reflective of the person you're sending that email to. Now, to be clear, this is only as good as the data you've collected. While Constant Contact and our competitors will obviously help you collect email address for you to send an email to, knowing somebody's first name, their zip code, their state, their buying habits, etc., that's going to be incumbent on those CRM tools you use, your e-commerce tools that you use, or the information you gather when you collect people's information. But Constant Contact does offer a feature called fallback, and I'll show fallback in just a moment because we do know that you don't necessarily, it's not always easy to get people's complete contact information. Another functionality Constant Contact offers, and again, I would encourage you to see if your tool does, is pre-built segments. So pre-built segments will allow you to choose audiences based on how engaged they are. Are they regularly opening your emails? Are they never opening your emails? So let's think about this for a second. Why would I want to target a group of people, segment a group of people who are regularly engaged with my email marketing? Well, that might be the best audience to send my last minute appeal if I'm a nonprofit, or a special discount or offer. These people are most likely to open and engage with the email, and because they're most likely to do it, they're most likely going to be able to build foot traffic for me, get me those last minute donations, or help me push a sale over the finish line, right? Let's flip it over. Why would I want to look at my least engaged, people that are rarely opening and clicking links in an email? Well, I may want to try a whole new strategy with these people, different subject lines, different kinds of content. Whatever I've been doing is not really reaching them. I may even want to segment them out further, and maybe do phone outreach, maybe do a snail mail piece, because they're not interacting with my email marketing. You can take this segmentation idea and run it even further using a segmentation function in Constant Contact. Again, see if your offering has this. Segmentation tool allow you to carve up your list not just on engagement, opens, clicks, etc., but on any data you've collected. You want to build a segment based on the state people live in, or the zip code they live in, or their buying habits, or their marital status, or their age. Any data can be leveraged to automatically segment a list for you. Now, the real powerful strength of this tool is that it is a dynamic list. It's a living list. It's an evolving list. As people take action with your email, this list is updated. As they don't take action with this email, this list is updated. As you're adding information in from your CRM, if you're adding in information manually, if you have a form out there where people are entering information, if they're updating their profile, now no matter how the data is flowing in, this list is evolving. People that meet the criteria I set up are moved in. People that don't meet this criteria are moved out. Now, for those that are using Constant Contact, this is going to be one of the things I demonstrate for you as well. But now let's talk a little bit about how to create that personalized, impactful email to drive better results. 80% of marketers personalize their emails and 64% segment their list. I can let the cat out of the bag. Constant Contact does this with all the email marketing we send out. Why? Because relevancy matters. In this day and age, thanks to these devices, we have been taught to expect more and more personalized experiences. I bet something that happens to me has happened to you. You're shopping on Amazon, you decide, it's too expensive, I'm not going to buy that right now. And then you go on social media, you go on the web, and there's that product, right? You're just looking at it, there's that product. Now, that kind of creeps some people out. I prefer it. I personally prefer it because I'd much rather get content that's relevant to me, that's useful to me, than good old-fashioned broadcast marketing where they're just hoping for the best and maybe this is going to be good for me, maybe it's not, right? I experienced this, and anybody that's a parent has. When I first became a father, I got all sorts of diaper offers and all sorts of playpens and daycare and stuff. Now that I have teenage children, I don't get that anymore. If I did get those, well, that would be pretty off the mark for me, right? I would ignore that marketing. I might even be annoyed by that marketing. It's certainly not relevant to me. So it doesn't surprise me that 80% of marketers personalize their emails because that's where the money is. That's how you're successful at this. So some ways you can personalize. I mentioned before that any tool worth its ilk, Constant Contact does this, of course, is going to give you the ability to actually add contextual information into the email. Some ways you can use that contextual information: you can personalize the subject line. You can have it say, Randy, blah, 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 blah. Or this would be great in enter zip code, right? And show their zip code. You can actually personalize that subject line to reflect the person receiving the email. This drastically increases open rates because it's noticeable. I'm going to keep picking on Randy since she's the only one I get to actually talk to one-on-one today. But if Randy was zipping through her inbox and she saw a subject line that actually said her name or mentioned her town or mentioned something about her, she's going to notice it more. It's going to catch her attention. So personalization of subject lines is a really powerful way to increase your open rates. If you're increasing the number of people opening your email, you're increasing the eyeballs on your products, your services, your donation opportunity, your volunteer opportunity. You can also use this kind of data to offer people a greeting. Hey, Randy, blah, 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 blah. This is much like a mail merge, right? It's personalizing like you'd personalize a letter in Microsoft Word. You're personalizing your email. You can also use custom data. So any data unique to your business, maybe that's a salesperson's name, maybe that's an ID code, maybe that's a tracking number, something that's useful in your industry. You can even make the content itself appear or disappear based on the audience that you're sending the email to. Now, again, broken record, this is a constant contact feature, but make sure you investigate whatever tool you're using if you're not using constant contact to see if they offer dynamic content. Pro tip, I mentioned it before, make sure you're leveraging backup data. Make sure you're leveraging a fallback, meaning that if I sent out an email with a personalized subject line, maybe I have somebody's name in that subject line. Well, we know that many small businesses and nonprofits, sometimes they get somebody's name and their email address. Sometimes they only get the email address. And so you want to make sure that you're using a fallback, something like friend or customer or dear customer, something like that, so that if you didn't get their first name, the subject line will still make sense. So now let me pivot back to this idea of dynamic content, of showing something or not showing something based on the subscriber. So here we see two nearly identical emails, but those of you that are eagle-eyed, take a look at the top part of each email. You can see that there's different content there. Those are dynamic blocks. Those are dynamic pieces of content. This content will show to people that have been shown interest in these products. This email, same email, will only show these products of people that are these products to people that have shown interest in this product. Again, the way to make money in email marketing is to offer the most relatable, contextual, and useful information possible. It's all about relevancy. The idea here is offering one email with different content that shows up based on the subscriber. So we can see here that this audience, general audience, we're going to just send this email. This is the same email, except that this section is dynamic. It's going to only show to a certain grouping, a certain segment of people based on criteria that we set up when we built the email. Nonprofits, we're sending out an email with to the general audience, but our prospects, people that haven't donated, we're offering an additional video. This is all auto magic. It's all automatic behind the scenes based on the subscriber. People will see this or not see this, but again, this is only as good as the data that you input into whatever tool you're using, but especially Constant Contact. Some additional ideas for segmentation. For retail, ask for a review. Pay attention to what people have bought, especially across e-commerce. If you're using an e-commerce tool, ask them to review the tool. Send information that might enhance what they bought, right? Something that goes along with what they bought. People that are unengaged, and I don't know why this text doesn't show up, but people that are unengaged, send a new email, win them back. Hey, we miss you, right? Try to get them back with new additional content. Offer them a special discount, something of that nature. The people that are most engaged, give them a thank you. People that are regularly interacting with your email, with your opening your emails, clicking links in your email, thank them, reward them. And prospects, make sure you're nurturing them over time, paying attention to what they click on, paying attention to what they do in your emails so that you can follow up with more relevant content. Now, what I'm starting to pivot into here is using data to help you segment even further. I have been teaching constant contact and email marketing for 14 years, and the one thing I see small businesses and nonprofits, capital F, fail at is not spending time, not carving out time to look at the analytics, to look at the data. Most people find it somewhat fun and creative to build an email, send it out. Maybe they'll look at the email reporting just to see they're open. So, oh, look, people are interacting with their email. Dig into the data because that's where the gold is. Certainly, you want to pay attention to the number of people that have been opening your email marketing. But the most important metric, if you've attended any of the sessions that I've taught through Alignable, is your clicks. Who are clicking on links in your email? Because that's proof the email was delivered, proof it was open, proof it was read, and tells you specifically what people found valuable. Knowing what people found valuable helps you decide what you're going to send in the future. It does more than that, but it certainly helps you segment your audiences. Also pay attention to the other side of the coin. Look at your CRM. Did sending this email out equate them buying a product from you? Okay, we know that this content is relevant. Let's keep trying this same model in the future. And test your segments. When you build out segments, pay attention to the analytics and see if you see a lift in your opens, a lift in your clicks. I'm pretty confident that if you follow the best practices that I shared with you today, you will see a lift, because if there's anything you've taken away from today's session, its relevancy matters. The more relevant and personable you can make the content, the more successful you'll be. So before I bring Randy back, let's recap today's session with a refresher on those tips. 1, make sure you try to lock up your elderly cat that's deaf. But 2, start simple. Test into segmentations. Again, on, off, customer non, member non, volunteer non. Then start to broaden out your segments from there. Considering the breaking up your segments by other kinds of base segmentation: men, women, married, not, family, not, and then go even deeper. Things like zip codes, things like states, things like product affinity, things like past purchase, donation amounts. And then if you really want to get pro, try leveraging tools like dynamic content to show specific headlines, specific images, specific buttons and calls to actions based on that particular subscriber. But with that, let's go ahead and bring Randy back for some questions. We'll talk a little bit about the Alignable discount, we'll talk about the community, and we'll take your questions.